The passion and excitement I have for low tox living is incredibly pronounced in this episode as we dive deep into this next guest's journey. Introducing Amanda Nedza. Amanda is a 36-year-old mother, hairdresser, and successful business owner. Amanda was and lived with IBS symptoms and anxiety for over 15 years, and in 2012, Amanda was hospitalised for a month with no answers. After battling with conventional medicine, Amanda decided to take her health into her own hands and overhaul her life. Amanda is on a journey to transform her family's life by embracing a holistic lifestyle and dietary approach. Well, that's enough from me, guys. Let's jump straight in. Welcome to the Honesty Policy Hour. I'm your host, Stephanie Marie, and it's time to put everything on the table on this beautiful journey of healing all areas of our lives, one deep conversation at a time. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to have you on. I think also the way it kind of initiated was really cool too. I think my girlfriend Natalie messaged me and she's like, you would love my cousin Amanda. You would get along with her. She'd be perfect for your podcast. I was like, shoot her her details. And then it just came from there. And I love that so much. It just shows that, when people are living similar life paths or similar journeys, people can see it. And it's really nice. I love that.
Yeah, perfect. I agree. I think it's all about connections. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you've had a very interesting journey with your low tox living and just your journey with your health and how that started. And I'd love for you to dive deep into it.
Yeah, cool. So it's a long journey. I don't know how far you want me to go back, but I'll go back to the beginning, I suppose. And I grew up in a house that wasn't really low tox. And I just had a really regular childhood and in an Italian family, and ate lots of amazing food and as I got older, I started developing some gut issues and started the path of trying to find what was setting all these things off. But I'm a hairdresser and working in quite a toxic sort of environment, so that didn't help. But this was probably 15 years ago, started seeing doctors, because at that time that's what you did. You went to the doctor if there was something wrong, and they refer you to all these different people. I'm having a million tests done and finding no answers, elimination diets that weren't really successful, and that sort of then started a path to dive a little bit deeper into what could be causing the health, gut issues and things like that.
What were your main symptoms?
Just lots of gut related symptoms. Started getting anxiety. So didn't realize that was a connection at that point in time. So that was something I just discovered later. And I started having trouble with my cycle, like my periods and hormones and things like that. So yeah, pretty big signs that something wasn't right.
So you went to just normal GPs, and was it just the referral cycle that we tend to go on, and referral after referral, specialist after specialist, GP after GP with no answers? I just was on a similar journey, and it's so frustrating because you're trying to find out what's going on and no one's given you an answer. And it makes so much sense why people give up very soon. They're like, slap an IBS label on it and call it a day.
Yeah.
And
exactly
yeah, and then you just sort of leave it at that, and then you're still getting the same symptoms. You're like, there's in your gut, ironically, in your gut, that there's something wrong, and you know what you feel like when you feel good, and you know what you feel like when you feel shit. So that cycle, it's so frustrating, but the fact that you keep going, hats off to you, 100%.
Yeah, when you're just not feeling well, you just got to keep pushing through, and then and look, lots of searching, still not really getting the answers that I wanted. Getting slight improvements with diet tweaks, but nothing major. And in 2019, in 2019, I had a big year. I had three businesses at that point in time, and lots of stress.
Salons?
Uh, a barbershop, a salon, and a cafe. So three,
Oh, amazing.
yeah, time-consuming businesses that
Mm.
needed a lot of
That's
attention.
right.
And I had a little boy, so I was busy with him running kinder runs, going between salons and cafe, and I think it just came to a head. I ended up really sick in 2019, and I spent a month in hospital with nobody knows what really. I had lots of gut symptoms. I started with a like a gastro bug that just couldn't clear from my system, and it was, I get emotional even thinking about it. It was the hardest time in my life I've ever been through. It
Totally.
was hard. It was really hard. So yeah, it no answers in a hospital because I got the runaround again. Um, and just missed a lot of things. It was December, so I missed, my son's kinder graduation and Christmas preparation, and couldn't be there for my team at work. And I was selling one business and relocating it to another space, and so I had a lot going on. And
Were you in hospital for how long did you say, sorry?
a whole month,
Oh my
November,
God.
2 days before Christmas in December. So
Oh, that is awful. So, and are you just getting tests and scans and stuff done in the hospital and you
yeah,
just had no
no
answers?
answers. No, and I had my best friend was getting married and my son was in the wedding, and I was supposed to be doing the hair, and I checked myself out the day of the wedding. My dad came and picked me up and literally carried me in to watch the ceremony and then took me straight back to hospital. So it was a really hard time. It was really hard. And it put pressure on everyone in my family because, I had a 4-year-old that I couldn't take care of, and it was just a really hard time. So that was the biggest wake up call I ever had. I still didn't really get the answers. It was sort of like, it might be colitis, but we don't know. And there was all this, in the end, I don't know exactly what it was, but that was when I started diving deeper into my health and getting alternate help and, looking at hormones and things like that. Um, and just going down that path. So that was the biggest wake up call I ever had.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see when I hear stories that are sort of similar to what you're describing at the moment. It's always funny. We automatically go to Western medicine, and then we just don't get any answers. So then we just start saying alternative medicine, Western medicine, and just different ways of trying to find an answer, really. And it's so interesting because if it's not obvious or if it's not generic, it's really hard to find, and it's really hard to navigate through, and especially when you have a little one. Oh my goodness, that would have been incredibly taxing, but you would have had to really rely on your family and support during that time as well, which would have been beautiful to see.
Yeah, I did. And I think the thing that, not even that time of being in hospital, but coming out, my mental health was pretty depleted
Yeah, I can
um,
imagine.
during that time. So before I could start to look after anybody else, I really had to focus on myself. And that's,
Yeah.
where that's saying, self-care isn't selfish. And I think that's one of the things you have to live by and remember, because you can't look after anybody else if you're not looking after yourself first and foremost. So
I just
um,
want to repeat that. Self-care isn't selfish. I have never heard that one before. That is amazing. I love
and
it. It just really,
business coach who is more than a business coach in my life, but yeah, you need to get the support that you need, and yeah, she tells me that
wow.
every week. So
That's beautiful. That is so it's so true. I'm just seeing how much you feel better after you do something that helps with your mental health or in regards to self-care. You just become so much of a better person, and especially a better mother. Like you can't, I used to hear all the time that, mums used to say, my I am my best. Oh, like my kid comes first. My kid comes first. And I understand that to a degree, but if you don't put yourself first, how are you going to be the best version of yourself to pour into your child?
yeah,
And it's so yeah, it's just such a really, like, you want them to put them first, but you have to put yourself first in order to be
100%.
that better mother, so you can really you're not pouring from an empty cup pretty
Yeah,
much.
you can't pour from an empty cup. That's exactly, yeah, that sums it up perfectly. I 100% agree. So, yeah, coming out of that time was when I was already looking down a different path, but that really shifted me into overdrive with the low tox living and stuff like that. And I had to get the help that I needed. So I had therapists and the works. I'm sure you can imagine, but just a lot of family time, people around me, gave myself a lot of time to just recover. But changing your diet and changing your house, and everything in it, it's really stressful. So it's counterproductive if you're trying to do something to make yourself better, but it becomes a stressful task.
Big time. I cannot resonate with that any further, because when you start going down the rabbit hole, you're just like, I want to burn the house down and start again.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I'm a big picture thinker. I knew what I wanted my life to look like and how I wanted it to be. But like getting started, you've got to take it step by step, or you just get overwhelmed. So that's when the planning. I'm a bit of a planner, so that's when the planning comes into it of how am I going to do this, and you need to get the support. So I'd been following this beautiful lady, Jo Whitten, online for a really long time, and she cooks a lot of whole foods, but she was particularly cooking GAPS foods. GAPS is a diet, well, a lifestyle, I suppose, and it means GAP stands for gut and psychology syndrome. So because my mental health wasn't great and that gut brain axis, I wanted to work on that. That was the path I decided to go. And that's when I got help from a GAPS practitioner, and I started really overhauling my life. So step by step though.
Yeah, of course. Just going back to the low tox and changing the home, where did you start?
I started with my diet. With my diet and water quality in my house. The things that I was ingesting first, because I could start. The food in the house is, there's perishables, so they sort of go off. And as I got rid of things, I started replacing them with better quality things. I gifted a lot of stuff away that I was sure I was never going to touch again, so it didn't go to waste. And then I used up what I had, and as I replaced things, I replaced them with organic, biodynamic foods, especially meats and vegetables were the first things, obviously. Filtering the water that we drink, and now we're going through the process of filtering our whole house. So
amazing. What brand are you using?
We're going with home water filtration. They just came out and spoke to us. So yeah, it was really interesting. I knew I wanted to do it for a long time, but taking the steps and the money and stuff to be able to do each thing. That's what I mean.
It's an expensive process, the water. I think that's what stops a lot of people from doing it. Like it's so expensive.
It is.
But I think like some of the earns that you can get are a couple $100. And some of them, like with all these apps and stuff that you can get like Afterpay, it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah,
but you can also get the jugs that I've seen too from I forgot what the company was. It's the same one that they do the urns, and the jugs that are like $30. So you just fill it up with tap water and it filters it itself. So there's cheaper ways of doing it. However, it's just, I think it's very much a mental thing. Like you were saying, it's so overwhelming that you're like, oh my God, I got to change this. I got to change this. I got to change this. And then it just becomes I'll do it tomorrow sort of thing, or I'll wait till Monday, that mentality. And it becomes really stressful, and then we just never do it. But then we spend money on.
I know, and we're all guilty. So it's like I don't have the money or the resources, but then it's like, what did I actually spend my money on this week? So yeah, exactly. Where you find your priorities lie. And at that time I was sick, so it was like it was pretty high priority to start switching that stuff. But if you're not 100%. Feeling unwell, it's probably harder to start making that transition. So
humans, we're so reactive, aren't we, to our health when it comes to anything. We're just very reactive. But when it comes to proactive, it's just everything gets put on the back burner, and it's it's annoying because you're just like, oh, now I'm sick. I'm like, why didn't I do this before? I'm like, you've got to remind yourself. Like, I think when you're in a really good state of mind, like when you're on holidays, like I'm sure you can relate to this coming back from your beautiful Europe trip.
Yes.
But my brother used to tell me this all the time. When he's in a really awesome state of mind, when he's on holidays or doing anything like that, he would write a journal to his busy self in his
Love that.
relaxed self and be like, this is what you need to change. Like you can see your life so perfectly when you're in a really great state of mind and when you're calm and when you don't have, mortgages and bills in your face every 2 seconds. When you're removed from that environment, you just feel so much more grounded and you're at baseline where you're able to really pick it. So he would write a letter to himself, and when he's really stressed, he'd read it and be like, I know it's really hard to read this book or put some time away to read this, but I think you really need to read this book. So that was a really beautiful thing that he told me. It really resonated with me because I was like, it's so true. When you're on holidays, it's just when you come back from holidays, you're like, I need to go every year. I need to make sure that I do this. I need to make sure I do this. And then you don't do it.
No, you don't. That's exactly right. I know exactly what you mean. It's yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, as long as you're taking little steps, I think is a thing. And I only changed the things at the start that I had researched and I knew what I was going to change them to, because I see it all the time, even in my salon. People come in and they want sulfate-free shampoo, or they want what's another one? Ammonia-free hair color. That's the big one at the moment. But what's the alternative? Because a lot of the color product companies, they need something to open the cuticle of the hair. So if it's not ammonia, it's probably ethanol based. And I don't know if that's a better alternative. So it's like, what are you really asking for? What do you want? So I think it's really important that to change the things that you've researched and you know what your alternative is. So for me, it was food, because I knew what I was looking at. I'm like, I'm eliminating all numbers from my diet. And so anything with preservatives was gone. If I couldn't make it at home or I didn't know what the ingredient was, I wasn't eating it. And it's hard because when you go out for dinner, you sort of have to make exceptions, and that's why it's not perfect. But you do the best with what you've got. I suppose that's
definitely. It's really interesting because I think as you get older as well, like I was all about the dinners and the breakfast and, even probably about 5 years ago. But then after my son came, and, you're on one wage, things have become a little bit tighter. And then you start seeing like, all right, I'm just going to cook at home, and how you feel when you do eat at home versus when you eat out. And it's, it's different because when you're socializing and you're in a community and you're laughing and you have a glass of wine and it's such a, your endorphins, it's just a beautiful feeling. So it kind of masks all the stuff that could be happening internally.
100%.
However, like when you look at the Dirty Dozen and like, the 12 most dirtiest vegetables, so the ones that are sprayed the most for people that don't know what that is. So spinach is one, I think it's got like 47 different types of pesticides on a spinach leaf. So they're the dirtiest ones. So that's number one of what you really should eat, organic.
And with that,
And then when you go to restaurants and you see spinach, you're just like, that's not organic. Oh my God, it's just so bad.
No, I know. But I think you just have to put that to the back of your mind. You still have to enjoy life. I think that's,
Yeah, 100%, definitely. You need that balance, but I think knowledge is power. And if you do, like, you're on the way home from the restaurant, you're like, why do I feel shit now? And it's just like understanding all these things. You're like, all right, maybe I'll just concentrate on this week or whatever it is. But knowing, like, I think for some people it can be just put it at the back of your head and I'll deal with it when it comes a really big issue. But just knowing your body and how you react to certain foods, like you would have learned so much about the way your body reacts through this journey. And it's a very powerful message.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I think even if you start with something small, like just buying organic, the Dirty Dozen, because the thing I hear the most from people when they're like, I can't believe you buy everything organic, that's so expensive. But I'm not going to the supermarket and going down every aisle, because if I'm eating bread, I'm making it. If I'm eating yogurt, I'm fermenting it myself, and it's just milk. So I'm only buying fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, and vegetables, meat, and that's it. I don't go down all the aisles. And there are a few like pre-made things that I buy because it's hard to make everything, especially when you got to do school lunches and stuff like that. But I've researched them. I know my brands. I know where to get them, and I order them in bulk so that I get them, discounted. So it's actually not more expensive, to be honest, like to eat like that. But if that's what you're worried about, I would start with the Dirty Dozen. It's things like strawberries, spinach, potatoes, all those sorts of foods that, carry the most pesticides.
Yeah. I'll put the link in the show notes as well for the Dirty Dozen for people to check it out because, it's a really good place to start. Definitely. It's where I started. I put my brother's girlfriend printed off the 12 most dirtiest vegetables of things not to buy and stuck it inside my pantry at the start.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly what to buy. So I was like, that was a really good little hack for me too. So, or just putting it in your car when you're doing groceries as well. So it's, yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm the same as you now. I literally just go to the fruit shop and the butcher and the health food store every now and then. And that is literally it. Supermarkets, I'll tend to go down every now and then for like, the sponges or whatever. But
Yeah.
other than that, it's yeah, it's a whole journey understanding all this stuff. It takes a lot. But
Yeah.
going back to your journey, so once you came out of hospital, you started doing the water and your food.
Yeah.
Did you notice a change in the way your body was responding?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I had to learn a lot about this because I actually felt worse when I started the detox
Yeah,
process
I can
because I
imagine.
had really intense die-off symptoms. Once I started on the probiotic foods, I was only eating vegetables cooked in broth and meat poached in broth. So I wasn't eating anything else. So once I started having I didn't think I had a lot of sugar, but anyway, because I was pretty healthy. But once I started having like withdrawals from the sugar, and that's carbohydrates too, because that turns, your body turns that into sugars anyway. So once I started cutting out the bread, pasta, rice, I had no grains for nearly 2 years. No grains at all. No sweeteners I had a little bit of honey, and I just ate nuts and seeds and things like that. So when I started detoxing, I detoxed hard, like really hard, and I really needed to support my detox pathways. So I was really doing a lot for that, and I started dry brushing my skin, and skin is your largest organ, so you need that to breathe. And that's when I started looking at, and it's a journey with the clothing and stuff like that, materials and things. But
Just going back, sorry, just for the listeners to
yeah,
understand a
yeah,
little bit about what dry brushing is. So, I've been dry brushing for a little while as well. It used to be my Friday ritual where I get my brush. You can get it from most health stores or even online.
yeah.
And at the start, it can be quite abrasive because it can hurt at the start, but it's a really good way of exfoliating, though. I found as well, especially after the tanning days that I used to do. It was just like take it all off. But yeah, so the brush, I had the brush with the handle and you could take it off and just put it around your hand and big strokes. And it was like I think 5 or 6 times you'd go
Yeah,
in one spot and
yeah,
you all go towards your heart.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So up all the way, legs all the way, belly around in circles, underarms towards your heart, and then obviously your back, whatever you can reach. But yeah, so it's draining your lymphatic system. So taking and it's flushing it all out towards where your blood circulates to. So it's very interesting. Post brushing, I found I noticed my heart was pumping almost like I went on
Yeah,
a brisk
amazing.
walk.
Yeah,
So it's very interesting. You can actually feel the detoxification happening even
yeah,
5 10 minutes after
amazing.
you're actually doing
Yeah,
it. Yeah. And you don't have to do it after the shower or before the shower. You could do it before or after, but it was
yeah.
always around a shower time for me. Um, and just watching all the dead skins
I
fall
know.
off, it was gross at the start, but I was like, oh my God, it was so crazy. But it's a really beautiful way. And like your lymphatic system, like I saw a lot of people how they do a lot of tapping in those areas as well, which were really good. But when you're sick, you can feel your areas like little pop up from your lymphatic system as well, and that's all related. It's really interesting to see the way. Yeah, your body works through your skin and through your body that you can actually physically see. So I really love that. And you mentioned another one that you said too,
Um,
dry brushing and
what else did I say? I can't even think. Oh, I was just doing lots of I don't know, did I say magnesium bath? I was having lots of
lymphatic system. You said you started dry brushing and something else, but that's okay. We'll come back to us.
remember now off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Yeah, and then I started, just doing, and there was other things like, doing castor oil packs and, just lots of different things just to support all the
you did
pathway.
them on your belly, the castor oil packs? Yeah, perfect. And would you purchase them separately or did you just put castor oil on a pack and like a
I just did it myself. I just had cotton cloths and I used the castor oil, put it on with a heat pack, lie down for 45 minutes, do some breathing, And I still do that all the time, multiple times a
Weekly?
week,
Do you reckon you do it?
maybe
Yeah.
twice a week. Yeah.
Wow. So
Not when you're bleeding. You can't do it when you're bleeding. So you have
yeah,
to make
yeah,
sure that,
or pregnant.
yeah. So, um, yeah, that's been
Yeah.
really helpful, something I've always sort of carried on.
So
So
castor oil is a big one at the moment as well for listeners too. Castor oil. I don't know if you've seen Barbara O'Neill, that she's just everywhere at the
yeah,
moment on Instagram. I'm just like, I love her. She's amazing.
obsessed with her. I know.
How good is she? She's just like, oh my God, I need her. Like, just come here and tell me what to do with my life.
Yeah, regret.
She's amazing. But she talks a lot about the castor oils, and that's where I kind of learnt from it. And yeah, so castor oil is really good at pulling, like helping with detoxifications, and they can actually, what's it called, disintegrate like tumors and stuff. Like castor oil is
Breaks them up.
incredibly,
Yeah.
yeah, it can break them up. So if you're having any, obviously with your gut issues, putting the castor oil packs on your stomach, if there is anything that needs to be broken up, it will definitely do that. So you'd let do it for 45 minutes. That's beautiful.
Yeah. 45. They sort of say that you should do it from anywhere from half an hour to an hour, but I do 45. It's just a good time to lie
Happy
down
medium.
and get up.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just do all the things. Meditate, put the things on, put your legs up, feel lymphatic training as well. Just do it all.
Some time, self-care sort of time. So when you finish that. So yeah.
Amazing. And you also do the baths as well, like the Epsom salt baths?
I do them. And that was sort of the next thing. And then it was like on to some different, I needed some help in the way of like from the naturopath, getting my levels right, did a little bit of what am I going to say, like some blood testing and stuff like that. And, my vitamin D was low. So I did have to supplement a little bit just to sort of get my levels to a level that was, I suppose, appropriate. So, yeah. And just, support in that as well. So
amazing. Yeah. So all this stuff that you were doing, was this recommended from your gut practitioner, or was this your own research?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So the GAPS practitioner was really big on the opening the detoxification like pathways and doing the dry brushing. And when she first mentioned that, I'd never heard of it, and I was like, what are you talking about? And like doing the baths and things like that, and the castor oil packs and everything. And then a little bit of research from myself. So when I started looking into like the cleaning products in the house, my skincare and makeup and things like that. And it's not perfect. Like I've still got a long way to go with that. But every time I run out of something, I replace it with something that I look into and research. So
yeah, that's a really good way to start.
Yeah, I didn't want to waste time with the practitioner saying, what brands do I need for this and what toothpaste should I be using? So I just started researching all that myself and
yeah, nice. It's doing all the things straight away, it's just so unrealistic, and like you said, it's so stressful and counterproductive on your mental health because your anxiety's through the roof. But it's a really beautiful way to start doing slowly. And I like the way you did it in stages. It was what you were consuming, then it was the detoxification pathways, and then you started looking at your cleaning products and your skin products. I think the the cleaning products, they're the ones that I really noticed how bad and how much they actually affected us in day-to-day lives, especially when I had my son. He had bad eczema at the start, and I was always using pretty clean products, but I was still purchasing them and stuff. But now it's like I make a lot of them myself, and literally just the cheap old black and gold vinegar is just like my lifesaver when it comes to it. I love it. It's just so good for everything. So it's just really interesting once you start seeing, like we said, we're very reactive. So my son had the eczema, so I went on this deep dive pathway. I'm making everything, because I bought 6 different products and then I started making it and then it went away. So I'm like, shit. So even the good quality stuff that you're spending $14 a bottle on a bloody laundry detergent has still got stuff in there. And then I started looking at fragrance and the ingredient fragrance, and I'm like, oh, you it's just
that's a big one
that,
for me.
That one pissed me off so much. I just got so pissed off because I think fragrance, the actual word fragrance, they band-aid that ingredient
Yeah. You
with
don't know
like
what it is.
200 different ingredients within that ingredient. When I found that out, I'm like,
It's
are you
sickening.
serious? Like, and
I know.
this is where it comes. It's knowledge is
It's
power.
natural flavors, isn't it? And natural colors.
Oh, natural
No one knows
flavors. You
what
see
that
the word
is.
natural. Oh,
You're just like,
greenwashing to its finest.
yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because it's funny you mentioned that with the cleaning products. I started just switching to those because I didn't have the time to start make. Well, I didn't think I had the time to start make. I didn't prioritize the time, is what I should be saying, to start making all of that stuff. So I just switched to what I thought was a better quality ingredients. There was one less thing I had to worry about when I was shifting my diet and things like that. So it was
Of
a
course.
better option. But I'll just touch on that with the fragrances and stuff like that as well, because after I did all this, I still had some issues. I was like, I'm still not right. There's something not right with me still, and I started seeing a new naturopath that was like, let's check your hormones, let's check your levels, let's check all this. And I was like, okay, hadn't really had that 100% checked before, like maybe skimmed over by the GP, but then normal levels we know are not really normal. So,
No.
yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
I know that's another story. I keep stopping the story because I want to kind of dab into like what you're talking about, because
Yeah,
obviously this is not mainstream knowledge. This is something that
yeah,
obviously has to take deep dive into it. But just to quickly touch on that, just so that
yeah,
it's not skimmed over. So our
yeah.
levels are, so when you go to the GP and they have these ridiculous levels of like what is normal, and it's just like if your iron is between 15 to 85, it's okay, but just like whereabouts is like, that's just ridiculous. And it's like, if I'm on 15, does that mean I'm really low? But if I'm 85, is that really high? Like, these are just obviously
Yeah.
numbers that I'm just pulling out of
But that's
the
normal.
air. Yeah,
Doctor.
exactly. But because they're normal, it's normal. But then when you go to a specialist or a practitioner like a naturopath and you start talking about what it is, it's the bracket changes so much. And it's obviously we're all different. And I know that we know Western medicine can be super generalized. However, it's really, yeah, this is what you're talking about in
Yeah.
regards to normal versus normal.
I think what the biggest takeaway that I learned about that, and I'll just quickly mention it, is my naturopath was saying, because I said, why does it vary so much? And in some countries, the levels are different to what our levels are in Australia. And I thought
Yeah.
that's interesting when I started looking into it myself. And I came back and asked her, and she said, what they do is they get about 10,000 people in Australia that live in a similar way. In a similar area, and they test them all, and then they go, well, they sort of vary between here and here, so let's make that our sort of normal. So in, parts of Europe and in Asia and things like that, their levels are very different. So the normal for Australia is that, because that's what we're testing and that's what we're seeing is normal. So it's actually not an optimum sort of level, and
No,
that's what we need to remember. So
it's just
yeah,
going by the general public. But if they keep doing this that way, and like if we're getting sicker as a
yeah,
society, which we are,
yeah,
are those levels going to change depending on, because we are not a healthy society?
doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
It
so
doesn't. It
interesting.
doesn't. So once you got your hormones checked, were there a difference in them?
Yeah, I had some issues there, which, I think in the past they'd said was fine, but they really weren't. And I can't remember the levels off the top of my head now, but that's when she said to me, like, let's start looking at your cycle and things like that. And I knew I had really heavy periods, and I was told that was normal to have painful, heavy periods. And anyway, she said, I think you might, I was getting pain in a certain part of my stomach, and I just thought it was part of the IBS and just wouldn't go away. And she said, I think you might need to maybe go get a scan, go get it looked at, because now it's at the point where like we just can't, I don't know now. So I went and had a scan, and I had an adhesion of my left ovary to my bowel, and that was endometriosis. So that was the start of my endo journey, and that's been intense, to say the least.
So with all these scans, they didn't look at endo as an option when you were in the hospital?
No, they didn't. And that's what now looking back, I feel like maybe that was the problem. Back then I had a bit of an attack. I sort of calmed it down by trying to eat well and do all that. But it wasn't enough. And I then had to have surgery to have that.
It actually adhered.
It adhered, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Literally
So,
sticking it was stuck. So
oh my goodness. Can you just run through a little bit of what endo is?
yeah, so I didn't really know, to be honest, before. I was like, I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know. And I think there's a little bit more coming out around it now. But
Every second woman has it at the moment. It's crazy.
it's crazy. And they generally can't find it on a scan. So it's you almost have to have a laparoscopy to find it. It was only because the adhesion was there that they were like, we're pretty sure you've got it. Otherwise, how would it be stuck? So when I went in, yeah, it's like a growth that grows outside of your of where it should. So it's like the lining of the uterus. I think that's what they say. It starts growing sort of onto your organs and outside of where it should be. So it's like a weed, and they found it in like amazing, crazy places. Like when I woke up from my surgery, because I wanted to know how bad was it? Like, did I have it? Because when they said, yeah, you did, I burst into tears because I thought, you know what? I wasn't going crazy, which is what I was made to feel like this.
I have my answer. I finally have my answer. It's
Yeah. So it was sort of the final piece of the puzzle to find, and the recovery from all of that was horrific, and I really didn't want to have surgery, but it really did give me a bit more clarity in what I could work on. And I believe prevention is the key to anything. So now I'm just working hard with my naturopath to even out the hormones to hopefully stop the growth. But they really don't know enough about it, how it grows, why. And they sort of said people that have this surgery and have this problem tend to have these surgeries every couple of years. So I just don't want to. My recovery was quick, and I don't want to do it again. So I'm really just working on those hormones.
So what are the things that you can do to prevent it?
So they sort of say, well, diet obviously is a big one, lots of water, but fragrances, they're hormone disruptors are like artificial fragrances, skincare, things you put on your skin, just what's in your cleaning products and all of that.
Wow.
So that's sort of my focus at the moment is eliminating as much of that as I possibly can.
And can endometriosis stop you from having children?
Well, yeah, I think it definitely can play a role. I had trouble conceiving my son, and I got lots of external help and did everything, and I went down every path, even Chinese medicine and stuff like that. But I was 24 when I wanted to have a baby, and I thought I was just going to fall pregnant like that, and I didn't, and it took years. And now looking back, I think that was obviously my problem, but I didn't know that then. I had scans, but nothing was picked up because I can't really see it on a scan. So
did you end up conceiving naturally with your son?
Yeah, doing Chinese medicine using herbs. So yeah, I did. In the end, I didn't want to go down the path of using hormones and things like. Never wanted to pump my body with something that wasn't already there. So
yeah, especially that you went on this big deep dive. Now, just to play devil's advocate, if you were to have the endo check prior to you going down this low tox journey and you found the answer, you probably wouldn't have started this journey, would you?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Yeah, I never thought about it. Probably not.
And did you find that it would be it actually helped your lifestyle? Obviously it did, but like I'm just trying to say, like, there's no regrets that it kind of happened that way because it led you down the line.
I think everything happens for a reason. And look, I probably would have maybe gone down this path anyway because I've got in my family a really strong history of bowel cancer on my mum and dad's side. And the more I looked into that, because I want to do my own research, the more I strongly believe that genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So
epigenetics is something I've been looking into recently as well.
So I really I've seen firsthand, and I've had a bit of a devastating news this week about someone I care about very deeply. And yeah, I think I would never want to go. I don't want to go out like that. So
I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I just will do anything in my power for not just myself, but for my family. I just want Stefan, like to my son, to grow up with all the tools he needs to be healthy. And right now he thinks he's really hard done by because, he doesn't get lollies unless I make them, and he doesn't get, all these bits and pieces. And he does occasionally when we're out and about, but he thinks it's the worst. But I'm hoping that he does learn all of these things, and I get him, try to help him, like getting in the kitchen with me and doing things and making our cleaning products. He helps me with that. So it's a bit of a science experiment, but yeah, it's hard because you want to give them the best opportunities, but you don't want to alienate them from everything that they want to do too. So it's finding balance. I think
it's such a hard thing. Like I see it, it's so hard because you're trying to protect them from everything, and it's just impossible to do that. However, I think, explaining to them, and my son's only, he'll be 2 in January, so he's obviously has no idea what he's missing out on because he hasn't.
I don't know yet. Yeah,
no,
they think you're the worst in the world.
I know, but I'm giving him like sugar. He's had like with my birthday. I remember we were sitting at we went out for dinner, and my husband ordered a mound of little baby Italian donuts, and they had Nutella on them, and we ate a big dinner, so like we were full from dinner, and my son was sitting on my lap, and his eyes just lit up. He's like, what is that? I could just see him going. I'm like, all right, I'll give it to him. And he tried it, but I could see he's just everything just firing, but he didn't go back for more. He didn't. I don't know. I don't know if it was just overpowering for him. He hadn't really had anything like that before. Yeah. Or he was just like confused, or he was just full. But like, it was really interesting to see. Yeah. And I thought he was just like, 'cause you've seen videos of kids having ice cream for the first time, and then they go nuts, and they're just like, it's like losing it. But he wasn't like that. And I don't know. I was so happy that he wasn't, because I didn't know what reaction we were going to get from him. But yeah, doing those, understanding that, we can have something like this every now and then, but it's not good. It's not good. But then you see videos of like extreme low tox mums are going down the aisles, and they're like, poison, baby, poison, 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 poison.
You've got to let them live their life. Like Stefan, he's got his friends, and he's got a lot of birthday parties that he goes to, and it's like, I can't not let him have cake and things like that. So then he understands that, during the week, that's not what we eat. But we eat cake, but I've made it, and it's not full of the crap. So it's all about moderation, I really believe. It's helping them to make good choices. I think that's
and just filling them with the knowledge that we never grew up with. We didn't. It's not my no one's fault, but I went to school with the Yogo dips and the stringer's cheese and all these things, and the packets of twisties, and it was maybe one piece of fruit or a sandwich in there as well, but it's just we loved it, and my mum just wanted to make us happy, and she didn't know that it was bad, because who wants to believe that the food that is sold to us is practically poison? Literally, no one wants to believe that. We want the intentions that the people that are providing us food have our best intentions at heart. But when you start following the money trail and understanding that, it's not about that at all. It's all about money and making money, and the best way to sell something that we get addicted to is sugar. So it's a whole different deep dive. But like you said, knowledge is power. We have to know these things in order to protect ourselves, because all of a sudden in the last 30 years, cancer is the only thing that people are dying from these days, and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And I was saying, I've said this on a previous episode, when's the last time you heard of someone dying from natural causes recently in the last 15, 20 years?
Right. Yeah.
We don't. It's always chronic illness. It's always chronic illnesses. And I'm sure, like in nursing homes and stuff, people pass away peacefully in their sleep, and I'm sure those stories exist, but I haven't heard them for a very long time. It's always a chronic illness, and chronic illness 9 out of 10 times always relates back down to food and lifestyle.
I 100% agree with you, and it's just to see people that you love and care about be affected, like, with these terrible diseases. And it's heartbreaking. And I just think, like, everyone says, oh, there's no cure to cancer, but I think the cure is prevention, to be honest with you. I think we know that, but we're just not willing to believe it. And it's too hard to ask it a lot of the time. So, yeah. And especially I feel there's probably lots of cancers, but bowel cancer, the more I read, the more I realize it is like a diet inflicted sort of cancer. And it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. Too many people in my family have been affected by bowel cancer, and I just do not want that for me. So
it's bowel cancer is on my husband's side as well. It happened quite a lot on his side. So I'm very cautious of that happening to my husband or my son, because obviously it's the same bloodline. So making sure that, we're doing all the things to prevent that. And, going back to epigenetics, this is why I went down the deep dive. I truly don't believe that, you slap it's just genetics sign, label on it, and then you're screwed for life. Like, I don't believe that. I really don't.
100%.
No.
I really don't.
No, and I saw the study of that they did with epigenetics. There's two babies, they were twins, and they got separated at birth. It was an unintentional study.
Oh.
They got separated at birth, and one of them stayed with the mum, the original mum, and they continued the same lifestyle as their ancestors or their previous generations. Exactly the same, nothing changed. But the one that got separated had a completely different lifestyle, completely. I think it was very much more on the holistic sort of on path one. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was the case. And fast forward like 60 years, and the one that stayed with the family received the chronic illnesses, and the one that did changed was completely healthy and lived up to a very healthy age. So that study alone just shows that they were identical twins. The DNA structure was exactly the same.
It's really interesting. I think, I believe it 100%.
Yeah. So I think, lifestyle is key, making sure that you're concentrating on the big factors, And I think, to everyone listening that is wanting to start this, check out the list of the Dirty Dozen, I think is a really big one. And anything that you see the ingredient with fragrance in your home, bin it straight away. Bin it. Anything, and even just do a quick Google of all your hormone disruptors that happen, and the list is ridiculous. Yeah. And I think things that disrupt your hormones and disrupt the way our body normally functions, it's really interesting. So it's a very, very overwhelming conversation, but it's one that needs to be happening, and it's an important one to have often.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think start with those things and build on it, and make a plan of how you're going to start switching things out, because it's not realistic to throw everything in your house away and buy everything. Like, financially you can't do it, and it's unrealistic. So
especially today,
small tweaks, and like I'm still going, a couple of years later, still changing things over, and there's still a lot of things that I'm like, oh, I need to work on that, but I don't know enough about it yet, so I need to educate myself in order to make the switch. So
yeah. It's going back to the fragrances as well. Me and my husband had a conversation before. It was so funny. We were talking about perfumes, right? I stopped using perfumes ages ago. Probably. Yeah, stopped using them a while ago. And I had a perfume that I had from my wedding, and I love the smell of it. It's just so beautiful. And I went out with the girls, and I'm just like, I'm just spray a little bit, because I saw it in my thing, and I'm like, oh, I just sprayed it that way, and I just kind of tucked my head into it. And then just like did it that way. And then I left, and then the next day my husband's like, what did you spray in the house? I go, what do you mean? He goes, I was afraid to take deep breaths. Like I avoided taking big deep breaths because it was affecting me so much. He's like, did you get something new? I go, I've had that perfume for years, funnily enough. Because he stopped using fragrances as well, and there is no fragrance in our house at all in regards to like even cleaning products. There's nothing. And the only smell is our essential oils that I do every now and then. But that's it. That's it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and hearing him say that was really, really interesting because like it's noticing that when you have time away from this stuff and when you start doing it, it's like it's crazy because you notice. But when you're doing it all the time, you don't notice these things because you're so
No,
used to
that's
it.
right.
It's like I remember even when I used to like I did bodybuilding competitions like in another lifetime ago, and I remember when I stopped sugar and I was pretty much just eating broccoli at once, chicken and broccoli at one stage. And I remember because I avoided everything else.
Yeah.
Broccoli started tasting sweet to me because I could taste the actual
Yeah.
flavors of the vegetable. And then
That's really interesting. Yeah.
it's so interesting because
Yeah.
when you start replacing it, it's like, wow, like it's you're removing all the things that are just disrupting your natural taste buds and your natural way of
Yeah.
using your sense, whether it's smell or taste. And yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. When I stopped eating sugar, I didn't crave the sugar anymore.
Yeah.
So having like a handful of almonds or something like that was like enough. And I was making my own chocolate, which was just some nuts, some coconut oil, cacao, and a little bit of honey. And that was like enough. Like that was great. I was dipping some fruit in that, and that was like my dessert.
Yum.
That was great, and I still do. That's what we eat now, and that's our chocolate. So, yeah, I still like sweet foods, but I don't need all those other things. But there's still a few things that I like cannot cut out of my diet. Like I love potato chips, so I had to find an alternative of like avocado oil chips because I won't have the seed oils. And or I found some olive oil chips that are $500 a bag. So when you savor them because they're a little bit more costly, and you're like, I just
Is there such a thing as potato chips with no seed oils? Have you found them?
yeah. Oh, I don't even have any. I had some this week, but I finished them. But you can buy. There's a brand that does them with only olive oil, and there's another brand that does one with avocado oil. So yeah,
I have
look,
seen
still
avocado
not
one oil
great.
actually.
Well, they're still not great, but they've just got olive oil, potatoes, and salt, nothing else. But yeah, still they're processed. But if you need something, you still gotta satisfy
Yeah.
that.
Of course. You got to pick your poison sometimes, isn't it? You just pick
Yeah.
what yeah, you still like you said, we still want to enjoy life a little bit, but just understanding that yeah, there's things that are just seed oils. Oh my goodness, that was a hard one when I started learning about seed oils. That's
Everything.
pretty much just petrol, pretty much.
Yeah, it is.
um,
Absolutely everything. It's hidden in everything.
it's hidden in everything, and understanding. Like I think once I started seeing that, it was a really big link to a lot of diseases that actually happen, especially like stomach cancers and stuff like that. It's really toxic stuff. Every time I see it now, it's just and it's something in my house. I'm just like, oh no, it's another one. It's another one.
Sometimes you buy something and then you're like, it's okay, and then you're like, oh no, like you find it in there, you're like, damn it.
I know. It's look, you can't eliminate everything sometimes, but I think 100%. But if you can eliminate a big chunk of it, you're on the right path. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Mm.
So, how is your health and your stomach at the moment? Like, how are you? Are you still having bad
Like,
periods and stuff like that?
it's funny because I'm still working on it. Like it's not perfect. I
Yeah.
won't lie and say it's great. It's definitely not. But I think you start to know what your triggers are a little bit more. And sometimes you do it to yourself anyway. And when I was away, I spent 8 weeks in Europe, and I actually didn't really have hardly any stomach issues. And I think that has a lot to do with the way we eat and digest. And I was eating all the foods, anything, because I was away. I was in Italy. I was going to eat pasta, and I didn't eat wheat before that for 2 years. So eating my first bowl of pasta, I thought, how's this going to go down? But I didn't react like a little bit, but not to the extent that I thought I would. But it was funny that you said about eczema and stuff. As soon as I started eating wheat, I started getting the psoriasis back on my elbows while I was away, which I haven't had since I cut out all the wheat and all of that. So it was interesting, but my gut wasn't reacting, but things were telling me it wasn't right. And since I've come back, I've gone, I don't want to cut it out completely. And I've started baking sourdough and stuff like that, because a lot of people go gluten-free, but what's in the gluten-free to make it look like
Yeah.
and taste like what we eat, it's actually far worse for you than just having regular bread. So
Cornstarch and all the things that are just
yeah,
even
all the
worse for your gut.
starches and things like
Yeah.
that, gums and all of those things that are emulsifiers. There's a heap of shit in gluten-free food. So when people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is gluten-free, you can have this," and I think, "Oh gosh, like you're really trying to help," but I wouldn't eat it anyway. If it's not, I'd rather just have a piece of salmon and some vegetables. But yeah, it's hard. So I am trying to, keep a little bit of that in my diet and eat more of a whole foods diet rather than go back onto like that GAPS diet, which is quite restrictive. And yeah, trying to keep a little bit of it.
Yeah. But it's beautiful the way like you did it, taking it all out, seeing how you feel when you like most elimination diets, we take it all out to see how we're actually functioning. But then, then the cravings happen, and then it's people do elimination diets and then they just go back to exactly what they were doing beforehand. And then they're like, I feel shit again. Let's go back again. And it's this yo, or like it's either they feel shit or they gain a lot of weight. They're usually the two ones that people do things for. But this yo-yo of just going back, but the fact that you went all the way, you went to the extreme, but then you started saying, all right, let's stay here, but let's introduce the good stuff. Let's not go back to what we were doing before. Let's go forward. Let's kind of add things. All right, not good. Let's do something else. All right, not good. All right, that worked. Let's do that. All right, next thing. Like, it's so important never to give up with your health when it comes to this. And if you're craving something, you don't have to go back to what you remember that you're craving or what your brain tells you, I want this. It may want that, but it doesn't have to be that brand or that specific food. There's other options that you can try. Like, there's so many. Are you saying you make your own chocolate? There's all these things that you could potentially do. And look, it's not going to the shop and purchasing it quick, but it's not waiting, it's not a long time. You put coconut oil, cacao powder, a bit of coconut oil and whatever sweetener you want, put in the fridge.
Up, and it's like I just
like that.
Batch, like enough for just then and there. Like, I need something sweet. I'll just do a little bit in a cup and I'll dip my strawberries in. Like, it's that, like, a little bit. But then, there were things that I did do that I invested in to help because I bulk cook because my son plays a shit ton of soccer and I'm out most nights of the week. So I really couldn't, just every night be cooking from scratch because I just didn't have the time. So Mondays are the day that I prepare my whole week. I buy my fruit and veg in bulk. I get it delivered. It comes in the morning. I cook for basically the whole time Stefan's at school. I've got 2 Thermomixes. I run them both at the same time. I cook the whole day, and then everything I just pull out. I've either prepped it and it's ready to go straight in the oven on that night of the week, or I've pre-cooked things and I freeze them and I pull them out as I need them. So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's really, preparation is key, and everyone keeps saying I don't have time, but if you prioritize it, you make time. So I think that's
you have to know your why. If your why is to prevent chronic illnesses, you'll do anything in your power to do that. And and just to making sure that you're doing things on a regular basis that make you feel great every single day. And that just doesn't go down to, eating and what you're putting in your body. It's like the fact after you cook, how amazing do you feel?
Yeah, you feel amazing. It's incredible. And it's part of the self-care. I actually love cooking, so that also helps. But we all get like, if I was leaving it to the last minute and I had to go to the supermarket and come home and just whip something up, I'd be so drained by that. Like, I wouldn't love that. But that's what I used to do. I used to not enjoy cooking because I was just, what am I going to cook? Just throw something together. But now I've, got a plan. And look, it's not the most adventurous food. It's just meat and veg all the time. But I try to do a few different bits and pieces, and I take a lot of photos of what I'm cooking and what I'm eating, and I post about it, and people always go, that's amazing. How do you come up with it? And I'm like, it's pork chop with some gravy that I made out of the juices and some steamed broccoli and potato. But everyone's like, that looks amazing. And I think it's so simple. It's just so simple. Got nothing
and
on
Instagram has been so good for me too in regards to having ideas to cook. Like, it's been like, I was like, perfect. Done, my dinner for tomorrow or whatever it is. It's there's so many ways of like the knowledge is at our fingertips, and sometimes we use it for distraction but like I started doing this a while ago with my meals, and it saved me so much. Like at the end of the week, like when I'm obviously prepared, but at the end of the week on a Sunday, I will look up 5 meals for dinner and
Yeah.
5 dinner meals, and I'm like, all right, perfect. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll order all my fruit and vegetables that
Yeah.
weekend. So again, I've got it for Monday, and
Yeah.
then I know what I'm cooking. So I do cook every night, or sometimes maybe 4 times a week. If it's
Yeah.
like at weekends, we kind of just work out what we're doing just
We're the
quickly.
same. We have
Yeah.
one. It's you human, yeah.
Exactly. But the week, or you just put together all the leftovers, or just make a big soup
Yes.
or whatever from what
Yeah.
is left over. But the week is, Monday to Friday is so crucial in regards to what you're cooking, and it really sets up the foundation for your life and how you're feeling, and the stress levels of, oh my God, what am I cooking? That takes it away. So having a plan, all right, Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this, Thursday I'm doing this. And roasting or the air fryer are the best things that you
The best
can
one.
use. Seriously.
I love those one pan things
Yes,
or things
one
that are
pot
cool.
mixes. Bring
Yeah.
them on. Perfect.
Chuck it in the oven and it all comes out together. I love that. Yeah, that's my sort of.
Perfect. Get a whole chook, put some
Yeah.
potatoes and some carrots, and you're done. Or
Yeah.
lamb shoulder, and then you've got the bottom and use it as the gravy. Like all those things that you can possibly do. Soups, stews, curries. Like it's load them with vegetables, load them with bone broths, load them with, but look, all this information, it doesn't happen to you overnight. It is a
No.
slow start, but
Yeah.
it's so
A
important.
good place to start, something that I did with the bulk cooking, is when I cook something, I try to double or triple batch it. So then I freeze it enough for another night. So instead of just cooking butter chicken for one night, I will cook enough for 3 meals and it will go in the freezer, and it's a very easy to just pull out and do that. So maybe just even starting with cooking 1 meal in the evening, but double batch it and then put one aside. It does get you in the habit. Or we use those extras for lunches because we have a cooked lunch every day. I don't, not a big sandwich sort of family, but we do like, whatever's left over. So today is pork chops, whatever was left over from last night, and some broccoli and, things like that. So just cooking, when you cook, you're already cooking, you're already making the mess. So double it
again. That's it. Cook once.
Keep going.
Cook once, eat 3 times, sometimes 4. If you can get 4 meals out of a one cook session, that's amazing. You've got dinner that night, maybe dinner tomorrow night, and lunches as well for the 2 days. So like it's having those prep sessions. Mondays and Wednesdays used to be my big cooks before I had my son, but because I'm home more often, obviously I do cook every night, but they're not hours in the kitchen. I might do that, on the Monday or whatever, but not every night. So
No.
you've got to have a life. You can't be a slave to the kitchen, and you don't want to be. Otherwise, when you start hating it.
Yeah, you do. You're right. And I think they're my main things. But the biggest takeaway, I think, from everything that I've learned for anything is the self-care and looking after yourself, and just you can't just go all in and be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, and then you get burnout because changing all that stuff over and living a life and being a mum and running a business and all of those things. But take that into as many places as you can. Like, try to be mindful your whole life, not just when you're at home or whatever. You've got to use those practices constantly. And
big time. Just quickly before we wrap up, I just wanted to touch base on what you ended up doing with the salon. So what products did you end up going with?
So in the salon, our products, they're not fully, you can't get natural products, or they just don't work. So we use Alpha Path in the salon, and they have an ammonia free range that is a lot kinder than a lot of the other ones that we've looked at. Their bleach is dust free, so there's no inhaling from the team. That's people that when the staff are mixing it up and things like that. So those little things make a difference in the salon. But probably more in the salon, it's hard to be low tox. It's very hard to be low tox in the salon because it is quite a toxic environment, and for the products to work, they need to have, I suppose, a certain amount of chemical, and that's what comes with that line of work. I no longer work on the floor, so I'm not involved with the products every single day. That was a choice for me and my health, but I fully understand, and I still have my hair colored. So that's definitely not a low tox decision, but that's just a decision that I decide to live with. But, in the salon, we do lots of other things in the way of like self-care for the team. So we really talk about their mental health and what they need to look after, and we take them on retreats and we do lots of things like that. So although we can't make it low tox, we will still trying to bring that sort of like feel into the space every single day.
So important having a healthy work environment, not only physically but emotionally as well, is so crucial for a really thriving team. So that's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. And when can people find you?
Oh, I've just got my Instagram, which is Amanda Nedza, and I just live my normal life, and you can watch me cook and keep up to date with the things that I'm doing and changing over, and when I'm mixing my other products for the house and things like that, I always share all that information. So yeah, you can
amazing. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time and your story. Hey. No worries. Well, thank you from wherever you're listening from. Have a beautiful day. Peace.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you received a few good takeaways from it. If anybody popped into mind while you were listening, please send it across to them. This will really help promote my podcast. To follow everything that I'm doing at the moment, head to my Instagram page, Holistic Healing with Stephanie. Thanks again, guys. Have the best day, and I'll see you on the next episode for more conversations that are raw, honest, and